Hello, guys. Good day. This is Anna Free in Force Club. Today, we are going to talk about the building resilience against emotional triggers. Now, everybody has emotional triggers. Since the day we were born, we are bound to learn, to work, and to live our life. And as we go along, as we grow older, as time goes by, we are going to encounter different situations which will slap us with lessons that we must learn, otherwise, it's going to come back again. And one of those lessons is the so called emotional triggers. Now, emotional triggers are the stimuli. These stimuli are events, experiences, words, or memories that evoke, that stimulates intense emotional response. And this emotional response are anger, sadness, fear, anxiety, or other strong emotions. Now, these triggers, emotional triggers, are deeply rooted in the past experiences, particularly those experiences which we consider as traumatizing or emotionally significant. Like, for example, you are being left behind by your mom or your dad when you were young, and then your your parent didn't come back again, or you have a breakup, and then you cannot ever forget that experiences, that 3 year romance, past romance from with your ex. So you're gonna experience sadness, lose control, feeling of being rejected, uh, lose of lose of what do you call that? Lose control, or it could be betrayal if your ex had cheated on you. So that could be traumatizing in some point. And these emotional triggers do exist because it is our brain's way of protecting us. Now, what does our brain, do? To come up with these emotional triggers, and what's their use? Why these triggers do exist? Now, these emotional triggers, they are often associated with the amygdala in our brain, and the part of the brain which is usually involved in emotional processing and memory. And these traumatic experiences, consciously, we think that we did move on. We forget about this. But our brain unconsciously never forgets. It is just stored at the back of our head, waiting to be triggered, waiting for the attack. So if we don't learn from this triggers, it's going to happen every single time. We could hurt other people, we could hurt ourselves, it could lead into broken relationships. So when we experience a traumatic or highly emotional event, the brain creates a strong association between the stimuli present at the time and the emotional response. And this heightened emotion and our response serves as a warning or a signal to help us avoid similar situation in the future. And this is also another way for us to, survive in the past, when, during ancient times, survival, like we encounter danger. So after going through those terrible times along with the danger to and overcome it, our brain has record every step, all of the details, so that the next time around, whenever we encounter the cue before that danger comes, we can able to survive. We can able to avoid it, prevent it to happen again. So the same is true with emotional triggers. So will not we're not going to forget those traumatizing events, like being left behind, breakup moments, or it could be separation, divorce for couples. So we are not going to ever forget those moments. It could be a winning moments for to some people. Some people, it's devastating moments of their life. Now, triggers triggers are those situations, trigger situations which can evoke our emotions. Examples of these are rejection, betrayal, or you've been cheated by your significant others, unjust treatment, lose control, being ignored, being excluded, abandonment, disapproval, uh, too much criticism. Like it makes you feel disheartened with those kinds of criticism, that it's not in the right place. It's not a pro growth criticism. Feeling unwanted, insecure, or loss of independence. So those are trigger situations which can lead you to anger, anxiety, depression, negative emotions. Now, the causes of these triggers, the situations, the past, which actually made us feel being rejected or betrayed. You know, the causes of these emotional triggers are basically the past traumas. Those experiences of traumas or significant emotional events that created lasting memories in our head, and eventually it became a trigger. Like, for example, a person who has experienced a car accident might feel panic whenever they hear a screeching of tires. So, they feel that the driver has lost control, and they panic because they have experienced in the past that past car crash. So past trauma. And as I've mentioned before, past trauma also involves being left behind by your significant others for some reasons. Yeah, of course, it's important reasons for the other half, or being abandoned by a parent, being abandoned by by a friend in the middle of difficult times, that no one's around you except just yourself. So past traumatic events, or it could be, especially those kids who are byproduct of violent parents, abusive father, or alcoholic parents, or drug addicts. So they abandoned their kids. And the second cause of emotional trigger is unresolved emotions. So unresolved emotions that have not been processed or dealt with can be resurfaced as triggers. Those unresolved emotions which we consciously or unconsciously ignored. Okay, that's nothing, but you were totally devastated and angry and upset about the situation, but you just let it pass. It means that you didn't learn from it. So for instance, unresolved grief can trigger sadness when encountering reminders of a lose loved ones. So when you feel like you know you have a past experiences, like your mom died 10 years ago, and you feel devastated that time, and then another family members of yours who is close to you is about to, is an excruciating situation health wise, and they're about to sign off from from life. So it triggers your sadness because you had a past wherein your mom died 10 years ago, and here's another family member who is close to you, is whose health has been compromised, and you feel sad about it. You feel like you're being left behind by your loved ones. You feel like you're not lucky enough to live in this planet. You feel like you're being ignored by blessings, with the things that you've gone through at the moment. So unresolved emotions. So other than this past trauma and unresolved emotions. Another cause of emotional trigger is negative beliefs. Those deep seated beliefs about oneself, about the world, which actually formed since childhood. Like, for example, uh, a person who believes they are not worthy of love because their mom didn't treat them well. Their mom were violent to them when they were a child. So they feel rejected every single day. They feel that they're not worthy of love, even though it's just their mom. But their mom, when you were a child, your mom means the world to you, and you've been let down by your mother. That's just for example. So you feel like you are rejected every single day, that you are not important, that you don't deserve to be loved. So this is an example of negative belief. Another negative belief is that I'm going to bring about the my previous example, like for like you like break up with your 3-year relationship. You had a good time, romantic memories with your ex, and you feel like you don't you're not going to have that kind of feeling ever again with another person, with another human being. So you believe that you're not going to find that kind of love anymore. You're not going to deserve it. As a result of that, you don't believe in romance. You don't enjoy the moments at all, just like the way you were before. So negative beliefs. Another another cause of this emotional trigger is the conditioned response. So, repeated exposure to a stimulus paired with a strong emotional response, can condition a person to react similarly in the future. So, this is common among those military soldiers with PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, or cases of phobias, phobia to spider, phobia to many, to a crowd. So conditioned response, which means that when you see a spider, you panic, you palpitate. And for some soldiers, whenever they feel that, after the war, they've been sent home, and then there is a situation which triggers them to act like they are in a war. So some of them, they attack people in a strategic way, like they were in a war. So post-traumatic stress disorder, or phobia. So as a result of that, like in phobia, those people who are afraid to hang around with the crowd, to see people outside, they tend to stay at home. They don't go out. They keep themselves secluded in a small space. And as a result of that, they don't grow. They don't want to be triggered. They are separated from the rest of the population, just inside their house. So those, social phobia. So these are the causes of emotional triggers. Now, I am going to give you 8 tips to manage emotional triggers. 8 tips. Because I can also relate on this. I also have terrible past just like everybody else, and I also get triggered by some situations. Now, the first one is identify your triggers, or own it. Own your triggers. Own your emotion. So, identifying your triggers, this is the basic and the most important of all, because this is the basis of your intervention. So, you have to recognize what they are. You can even keep a journal to track the situations that evoke your emotional response and look for patterns. Like, for example, to me, I don't like to be in a situation wherein I feel like I lose independence. Although in some point, yes, we are being controlled macro wise, but I don't want to be in that situation wherein I feel like I am being controlled, because I want to be in control. So yeah, well, other can manage to I can manage to obey, but I love to be in autonomy. I want to practice my autonomy. Otherwise, if I feel like I'm being persuaded, or I feel like I am being trapped by rules and regulations, you know, I seem to withdraw. I leave it. I leave the situation. I That's not gonna work for me. I just leave it undone. I go. And another thing is rejected. Yeah, that could be in all sorts of situations, not only at work, not only with my personal relationships, but rejected could be in my first rejection when I applied a job. So I learned a lot from that. That's why I got a job. Because I got rejected. There are some things that I didn't do. I didn't even do my research. I didn't dress up well. So that was a rejection lesson. But it doesn't mean that I stopped there. I'm just pretty much aware why I got rejected. And I need to improve. And thank you, brain. Thank you for that. Another thing is that, yeah, as I've mentioned before, lose of independence, because I mean, this is for personal reasons. I feel like I'm comfortable working if in my own space, working on my idea, committing on my idea, while I could uh, ask for suggestions from other people, and then I can uh, unfold the options for me. I want to be, yeah, other than I want to be in control, but I'll be comfortable enough to work on my own, with my own space, with at least, don't make me feel that I am under rules and regulations. I don't want to mind that. I want to focus on my job. With I can um, I can even apply the ideas that I have. I want to feel free to do that, autonomous, while under a policy, a rules and regulations. So I have to keep everything legal, but I want to work on my ideas in the most part. I want to be autonomous. I hope you get what I mean. The way I move. I don't want to be managed. I don't love, like, whatever you call that, micromanagement. I don't like to be micromanaged. So that's how it is to me. And I have noticed that to myself. So whatever triggers you, whatever makes you feel angry, you got to take note of that. Because if it happens again, there's nothing wrong about being upset, being angry, but the consequence, the byproduct of those emotions, sometimes you're gonna hurt your loved ones. Sometimes it even make or break relationships. And when you love someone, when you value relationship, the last thing that you want to do is to hurt them. And as much as possible, you don't want to hurt the people you love most. Never. So this tip might going to save you, as long as you learn from it. You manage it or you avoid it. It's just avoid or manage yourself. You can't change the trigger, it's already there, but we can change our reaction. So the thoughts are already there, anxious thoughts when the trigger comes, but our reaction to the thoughts itself. So that matters. And the second one is give yourself some space. So when the triggers comes in, give yourself some space. Maybe you need to be quiet, just like me. You might gonna be quiet. You need to be quiet maybe 3 to 5 minutes. I know it's never easy. It's never easy to change ourselves, but to make the relationship works, to become a better person, you have to work on this slowly by slowly. Like, give yourself some space, have some short break. Avoid, this is the purpose of this, is to avoid instinctive reaction that will lead you to that would might gonna lead you to freaking out, or saying words that may hurt others. And you don't want that. You don't want to hurt your loved ones, even not your loved ones, other people, innocent people who have no idea about what happened to you in the past. They're just lessons which you need to relearn, review lessons. They have no idea about what happened to you in the past, and they don't deserve to be treated unfairly. Although in some point, yes, they do, but again, to manage yourself to become a better person, if you are aspiring to be a leader, a good husband, the best mom and a wife, then you got to work on yourself. So while you give yourself a space, you can do deep breathing. Stay away from the triggers. If you have a chance, stay away from the triggers in the meantime. Imagine, guys, look, this is how it works. I am a nurse, and I deal with different people with different heck of personalities, different way of different different way of dealing people, and I have encountered every day. When I used to work in the ward before, and patients are sick, patients were sick in those general wards, and they all their situation has had triggered them, and then they trigger you, and you encounter different people with different triggers, and you got to cope up with that. So as I've noticed, what me and my friend do before, we just stay away from the trigger, give ourselves some space. So whenever we feel the heightened situation from the conversations we have with the patients, after giving ourselves some space, we talk to the wall. You can say anything to the wall, not to the patient, not to your manager, not to your friend. You can say anything to the wall. Talk to the wall, just to give out that heightened emotion. That is our own way. Sometimes when I'm not working, I feel triggered. I just need some space, just away from the trigger. I'm on my phone or thinking. If I'm not with my phone, I'm just thinking, looking at the scenery, the clouds in the sky, looking at the window, the trees, just to calm down the heightened emotion. I need to calm down before starting a conversation with the person who triggered me, because I don't want to cross with that person, because it happened before. So since I had a bad experience with that trigger, so I realize and I come up with a solution to give myself some space before interacting with the person who triggered me, and that actually works. It's not perfectly 100% that it's going to work, but the goal is, the main thing that you have to think about is to avoid hurting people, to avoid saying nasty things. You know what I mean? I hope you do. Otherwise, as I've said, it's not 100% that it's going to work, that you're going to get some space. Sometimes when the trigger comes, you react on those triggers immediately. You get angry, you got upset, you said the wrong things. And then by the time you calm down, gosh, you have to make another intervention again to make it up to the person you hurt. You apologize, you reconcile. Or again, it's going to be a broken relationship, or it's going to be, you're going to mark a trigger. You're going to form a trigger to that person that you hurt. So you have to, as much as possible, cutting the negative energy in you, so that you can stop spreading the demons, the negative energy to other people. But look, it's never easy, but you keep working on it. And number 3 is mindfulness. Practice mindfulness. Some people, they do meditations. They just watch their thoughts in a period of time, with deep breathing, and which can help them. It's like a workout, bringing their mind, body, and spirit at the present, not with the future event, which makes you feel anxious, not with the past, which makes you feel angry. So meditation. you stay grounded in the present. And that actually reduces your intensity, the intensity of your emotional reaction. Meditation really do help you calm down in the midst of stress. It does. I don't do meditation. I do it sometimes, but I keep track on my emotions and whatever things that are happening in my life by means of journal. I got a journal. And number number 4 is create a support system. So support system means your trusted friends, family, or a therapist. You can open up to them about your triggers so they can provide emotional support and new perspectives. Sometimes, guys, when we have problems, when we feel upset, when we feel angry, anxious about the situation, sometimes all we need is just a better perspectives than what we have. Better perspectives which we can get from other people who are calm. Other people who have experienced the same situation before and have overcome it successfully. So this could be your family member, your friends, or your therapies. Get a better perspectives so you can come up with a solution of your problem, and then you might gonna get over those triggers when it comes back again, when it happens again. Now, number 5 is develop a coping strategy. Those healthy coping mechanisms like exercise, creative activities, engaging hobbies to manage your stress and emotional response. So, especially working out. Not necessarily that you have to lift weights, you're going to have abs. Not necessarily that way. You can just merely have a brisk walk. It could be in the beach side, or it could be near a mountain, or anywhere to release that negative energy, to release the heightened emotion from anger, so that by the time you walk for 30 minutes or 1 hour while you were upset and angry, when you come back home, you're already calm. You come up with a better solution, better perspectives, and you can finally talk normally on your own face without shouting on the person who triggered you. You can come up with a solution and make it up. Make it up to these people you hurt. Or, you can work things out calmly. Now, number 6 is develop self-care. Self-care means adequate sleep, balanced diet, regular physical activity to maintain overall emotional health. Especially sleep, guys. It's hard to think wisely, calmly, in a better manner when you don't have enough sleep. It's tremendously hard. So self-care is the key. Prioritize yourself and set your boundaries, keep your standards, and you can even make your values non-negotiable. Apply the principles, updated principles which suits to the situation. And that is self-care. To avoid, to prevent the triggers to take place. Now, number 7 is exposure therapy. So, exposure therapy means gradual exposure to triggers in a controlled environment to lessen your reaction, to control your reaction, your emotional response over time. This can be applied to those people who have obsessive compulsive disorder, and it should be done. Take note, it should be done with a professional guidance, especially those people who have severe triggers, with professional help. So this exposure therapy. And lastly, open communication. Especially to those, if you love your job, if you value the people around, if you value your relationship, if you love yourself, you may open up to to those people around who triggered you, those people you hurt, after you've given out, after your anger. You can communicate to them, about the situation. You might give an apology, or you can, just talk it out calmly. Open communication with each other. Uh, have a healthy communication with the people around after you've been triggered to avoid unwanted situations in the future. Remember, healthy communication. You don't have to shout, not necessarily, but sometimes when we're out of control, we forget about this healthy communication. Well, this do happen to me. And then after a while, when I realized that that's not a good thing to practice, and I know it is already existing, that sometimes when I'm out of control, the communication is off. I just, I just ask for apology if it's still worth it. If the relationship still worth working, if I still value the relationship, I want it to work. I apologize to avoid and comply with the solutions that you come up with the person that trigger you. So it's a win-win relationship. Healthy communication skills, loving and caring communication, open-minded communication. Otherwise, there will be a tendency that other people might going to resent you, might going to think that you're rude, which in some point, yeah, could be true. We forget about the way we talk when we're angry, and it happens to everybody. It's normal, but since yeah, it's normal initially, but the consequence could be, you're going to be dealing with the dirty stuff in the end. So that's why you have to work. It's important to work on ourselves and find way to resolve the situation after the damage has been done. So that's what is this about. Building resilience against emotional triggers. Now, if you ever like this content today, you may share it with your family and friends. Help me spread the good news. Let us help each other around the world. This is Anne of Reinforce Me Club. You can follow me in YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube Podcasts too. Have a lovely day ahead. I appreciate your time. Thanks again.